All right, welcome everybody. Let's get started. This is Sandler Training. We're going to be talking today about how to succeed at selling in uncertainty. These are certainly uncertain times that we're all facing, and nobody has a crystal ball for the future, but we can look into the past and learn some lessons from observations and experiences of the past. Some of you don't have the advantage of years that I do. I'm 62. We've been through 4 of these recessions. So I'm going to be sharing with you some of my tactics and insights that I have gained over the years in weathering the storm. I want to start by introducing the concept of cognitive reframing. So cognitive reframing is really, it's how do I restructure my brain so that I replace crappy thinking, self-limiting thoughts with good ones. The art of thinking differently. And I think of all of the things necessary to thrive in a down economy, that is by far and above the most important thing for you to do. You have to train your brain to look at things differently. You can't accept what the 24/7 media tells you. You can't accept what your own fear tells you. You've really got to be proactive. And I would also use the term diligent. You got to be diligent in how you perceive the world, because your view of what's going on will craft the message that comes from your heart. One of our rules in Sandler is you can't fake tonality. And what I think that means is if you believe something, that conviction comes through in how you act, what you say, and how you say it. Because of that, you've got to be very diligent in structuring what you believe. So we're going to give you some tips and tactics on how to do that. Let's give you some examples, though, to start with on cognitive reframing. And so example number 1, Mauritius is a small, insignificant island in the ocean. That is a fact. If you want to retrain your brain, Mauritius is the largest ocean state in the world. Here's another one. I see no opportunity to sell shoes in this country versus because nobody wears shoes, versus glorious opportunity to sell shoes. Nobody has them yet. It's a different way of thinking. Asking my dad for money makes me feel comfortable, as opposed to it would be unfair to withhold from my dad the opportunity to contribute to my life. So those are examples of training your brain to perceive the circumstance or situation that you're in differently. Let's take a page from children. I've got up on the board, what do we see? You might see a master bedroom suite, a nice well-made bed. What does a kid see? They see a trampoline. If you have kids or been a kid, the first thing you do when you get into a hotel room is what? Jump on the bed. How about a living room? I've got a picture on the board of a living room, well made up, well appointed. Sofa, cocktail table, credenza. What does a child see? A child sees a sea of lava, and the furniture are the precipice that you walk on to avoid being burned up by hot lava, hot lava, hot lava. So changing our perspective is really a choice. Thomas Edison said, opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. He also said, I've not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So in the midst of uncertain times, trial and error is your best friend. You've got to work diligently at reframing your thinking, reframing your efforts, restructuring your behaviors, strategies and techniques to get a different outcome. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you might find to do that. And one of the best, I think, scenes from movies of retraining your brain is from the film Dumb and Dumber, when he says, I really like you. Is there a chance that we could be together? And she says, well, no, not really. He says, like maybe 1 in 100. And she said, more like 1 in a million. And he gets this blank look on his face and says, you mean I've got a chance? And that's the mindset that we really have to be successful in uncertainty. If you believe that this is a bad time to sell, it will be. If you believe that this is an opportunity, it will be. Chances are that your competitors are sitting back waiting for circumstances and situations to change. They are being impacted by the inability to reframe their thinking, and they're waiting for this too shall pass. In selling, reframing takes an objection to a sale and turns it around to be a key reason to buy. And so I'm going to give you some tools I hope that will help you recognize that you can leverage the news and the circumstances in our economy to create a better outcome in spite of what's going on in the world around us. So throughout today's session, there's a chat feature in the Zoom meeting platform. If you click on the chat feature and participate, I will be compiling your comments at the end of our session today. I'll be sending those out to everyone along with some responses, thoughts, and strategies in response to your chat. So the first chat, write down what is one thing that you're struggling with right now. What's one thing that you're just struggling with right now? You're having a hard time wrapping your head around the actions necessary. Maybe it's a belief system that's got you stuck. What's one thing that you are struggling with right now? Setting new appointments. What else? What's one thing you're struggling with now? Staying in place, creating complete uncertainty in the client's future. Good one. Anybody else? What's one thing you're struggling with right now? Calling prospects. So in each of these examples, another one, making contact with decision makers. It starts with cognitive reframing. If I believe people want to meet with me, I will take action to set appointments. If I don't believe they want to, I won't even make the effort to call. Staying in place, creating complete uncertainty in the client's future plans. So if I believe the client's future is on hold, it will be. If I believe, on the other hand, that right now is a time for people to really plan strategically for their future, and I'm a part of their strategic plan, that will inspire me to take advantage of reaching out. And then it also changes my talking points. So a talking point on that might be something like, hey, the reason for my call is that we recognize that many of our clients are taking the opportunity afforded by this shelter in place to plan their future. and they're asking us to reach out and help. I don't know if you fall in the category of people who could use some ideas. Would it make sense for me to take 30 seconds? I'll tell you what I have in mind and you decide if we keep talking. So that little third-party story piques curiosity, 30-second commercial, identifies pain. Now we have an open door. Calling prospects and making contact with decision makers. Listen, it's not easy to do that when things are running smooth. I don't know about you, but I'm really good at coming up with excuses. And if I let myself, COVID-19 is going to be a great excuse to do nothing. But I know this, my competition is probably not stalled, and I need to jump in and take action. Got another one from Justin. Commitments to setting meetings for clients who offer products and services that are no longer in demand due to COVID-19. It's a reality, right? I don't need your services because we don't even know when we're going to be able to re-engage with our clients or when we will need that. So I'm going to give you some tips and tactics that I think will be helpful for you to re-script your talk tracks and have more success. So to do that, let's look at, here's a quote from Tony Robbins: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. What we've got to do is we've got to be innovative. Your competitors are innovating. Your competitors are seeking ways to break through the fog of war in this virus and figure out how to engage their clients at a better way. Shouldn't you be equally committed to a future engagement? You're gonna have to do things differently. So if that's true, that at this very moment your competition is reframing how they will steal your top 6 customers, what are you gonna do to preserve your top 6 customers? Better yet, what can you do to reframe your belief so that you are working to achieve success with people who have never met you? Well, the first thing I think you should do is, this is a shameless plug, engaging with Sandler training. We've trained over 30,000 people per year. We have success 50% or more, hit their quota better than with Sandler than without. 88% of salespeople said their sales strategies improved, and 96% of clients polled would recommend Sandler. So what does Sandler do? Well, we provide ongoing reinforcement training that allows you to stay sharp in the midst of struggling times. So let's back up and talk a little bit about the learning process. 4 things happen when you are introduced to a new concept. So today, so far I've introduced you to the concept of cognitive reframing. Now, no doubt you've been aware of that, but step number 1 is to heighten your awareness to recognize, in this case, that you have the ability to script your beliefs. Number 2, gain knowledge. Knowledge helps me know what I should do now that I'm aware of an action that I could take. Skill happens when I engage over and over and over in the act of, in this example, re-scripting my belief. And then mastery is when I become aware of my secondary thoughts and I put in my brain that belief system that keeps me on guard against negative thinking. I learned mastery in catching those negative thoughts, journaling to create that new thought. These are the 4 steps that you go through in every engagement that you have: awareness, knowledge, skill, and mastery. We're all at some level in every topic that we'll cover today. You might be at the awareness stage. You're not going to get to mastery until you work on the ongoing reinforcement of a new skill set. All crisis is temporary. This first graph is the Dow Jones Industrial Average during September 11, 2001. As you know, the bottom fell out of the market, and over the course of the next year and a half, it slowly regained stature. The next is personal consumption expenditures after the Great Recession in 08. The bottom drops, and then over the next couple of months, half a year, it goes through this cycle of undulation. Every economic cycle has these movements, and the movement of the market will give you the advantage you need to re-script your talk tracks. So the next slide I have up shows what happens. We all know that people buy, B-U-Y, emotionally. They also restrain from buying emotionally. Their outlook towards the current environment is going to shape the actions they take or they fail to take. You might jot this down. Not making a decision is a decision. So when people decide to do nothing, they've made a decision. The question is that decision in their best interest? Now, as sales professionals, we know it's patently unsuccessful to tell people what they do, what they should do. If I say to you, well, you know what you should do? You really need to take advantage of this recession because a lot of people, millionaires are made during recessions. If I tell you that, you're just going to discount it because I'm a salesperson. But if I facilitate discovery, I might open your eyes to reframe your perception. And isn't that really what sales is? Our job is to help people reframe their perceptions to have a new outlook. So here's the cycle that happens when people buy emotionally. So at the very top of the market, there's excessive optimism. The markets, they call it overbought. What happens is, as it starts to decline, credit and cash dries up, inventories start to bulge, production slows, prices slip, people start to get a little bit worried, buying dries up a little more, they lose confidence, and then it breaks that negative barrier, falling into layoffs begin, more worrying, savings build, people stop spending, they save, they put off buying, excessive fear, panic, and then the cycle will hit the trough or the bottom. At that bottom, that's when some buying starts to occur. So if you wanted to reframe a prospect's perspective on how to manage the market, you might try the strategy of a third-party story. Here's an example. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was an interview of Warren Buffett. And the interviewer said to Warren Buffett, times like this must be extremely stressful for you, given that you've got so much money tied up in the market. Warren Buffett's response was, no, actually, it's not at all, because we look at this as great buying opportunities. This is the time for where we step up and take advantage of the tremendous opportunity created by the fear that drives most people in investing. Now, then you follow up with a question. I'm curious, in your world, is there any opportunity that you may be ignoring that could help you further your career or set you in a better trajectory in the days to come? And of course, that's a little bit of a leading question. They're gonna be thinking, well, I don't really think so. I've got an idea. I'd like to share with you. May not apply to you, but it might. Would that be okay? Get permission. They'll say, sure. Your next move is to say, here's what some of my clients, another third-party story. If I say, I think you should, I'm telling is selling. Nobody wants to be sold. That third-party story will awaken in them opportunity. So here's the opportunities that happen. As a recession starts into recovery, some buying occurs, some hiring occurs, more buying, more confidence, more hiring, more buying, prices go up, fear of higher prices kick in, real demand is established, really positive news comes out, there's a scramble to produce, there's a scramble to buy, and then we go back into an overbought market. Supply and demand requires that as you come out of, or as we come out of this recession, there will be an increase in prices. There will be pent-up demand that has to be met. And as that demand becomes more and more expansive, it requires that prices go up and projects are delayed. So what does the smart money do? The smart money takes advantage of the planning that can occur in the trough, right? So now is really a great time to plan. So let's go back to my making prospecting calls. You could start your prospecting call with something like this pattern interrupt. Hey, I was just in a webinar that explained the economic cycles in a way I really hadn't heard of. So I made a commitment that I'm going to call 5 people today to see if they're aware of this cycle. You're on my list. Should we have a brief conversation about this? Right? There's a pattern interrupt. The pattern interrupt is designed to create curiosity. The curiosity is designed to help them pique their interest so that they want to have a conversation. And my next move is going to be to, why don't I give you a little bit of background on what we do, and then you determine if it's worth continuing to speak. 30-second commercial, and you're off to the races. So chat for me, what is one thing that you're doing now that's working? What's one thing you're doing now that's working? Take a minute and chat in that feature on for me. Emails with existing leads, good one. Being consistent in touching, vital step. With COVID-19 crisis, I've spent time talking to local businesses like yourself. I'm wanting to hear how you're seeing the effects at your business and how you're planning to manage or currently managing any impacts with such as people working from home. Great one. So that calling to get there, you know, giving your opinion is a tremendous ego stroke. What a great way to stroke their ego and get them talking. Prospects are willing to meet in the future once the resting in place is lifted, just not willing to meet now. So that not willing to meet now, I would say reframe your thinking. They don't know how to meet now. So how can I nurture a new relationship and help them in the process? I'm going to be doing another webinar next week on digital selling. And one of the strategies in digital selling is you become an expert in Zoom so you can help other people figure it out. If you will be an innovator, and so the phone call would sound something like this. Hey, you know, I've in my desire to continue to grow my business, I have found it's really important to stay in front of people. I'm using this new platform called fill in the blank, go to meetings, Zoom, WebEx, doesn't matter what it is. I'm using this new platform. At first, I was really resistant because, you know, honestly, I'm just a little bit intimidated by technology. But I have found it's surprisingly intuitive. And I've made a commitment that I'm going to reach out to 5 people a day and see if they would like my help getting familiar with how the technology works so that they can maintain face-to-face engagement with their clients. Any interest on your part to have a conversation about that? So that soft touch is about giving. One of the effective ways to grow your business in a time like this is to give. I don't want you selling. People that are out there selling their wares, it's unbecoming. Your position should be to give. And as you're giving, people will see your giving and they'll be attracted to you. What if we know they use online meeting portals but still refuse to meet until after COVID blows over? You know, I'm never going to be able to change your mind on a decision you've made. The best I can do is to paint a third-party story that would help you change your perspective. So a change in perspective happens if I start to look at things in a little different way. What might that sound like in this case? I got somebody who said, no, I already know how to use that platform. I'm just not interested right now. We're just way too busy. Makes sense to me. So I'm guessing you fall in the category of people who are going to wait to plan until demand is high and prices go up. Is that what you're telling me? So now notice what I said there. It's a negative reverse. You're going to wait until demand goes up and prices increase before you take action. I want to stop them in their tracks so that they say, now, wait a minute, that's not what I said. So you have to have the courage of conviction and listen, you've got to script it. So I think in my mind, a statement like that is a little bit like, I double dog dare you, right? I got to challenge you to think differently. And in order to get you to think differently, I've got to challenge you to hear what you said in a different sound. I need you to hear what you said in a different perspective that creates that negativity or that negative perspective that you may not even be aware that that's what you're saying. In our sales process, one of the things we tell our clients is if somebody goes for a no and tells you they don't want to move forward, make sure you verify with them what they're saying no to. So if somebody says no to me, like let's say I'm in a sales call, I've presented an opportunity for them to sharpen their selling skills and their team selling skills through ongoing reinforcement training. And they say, you know, now's just not a good time. Fair enough. So I'm gonna accept it, lower the barriers. Fair enough. I appreciate that. I hear it often. What my brain hears when somebody says they want to wait is, we're going to continue with the problems we currently have, which what you told me was pain 1, pain 2, pain 3, even though we know that it's costing us on average X hours and X dollars per month. So are we on the same page? You're accepting the status quo, which is going to cost you rough numbers, X dollars per month. They don't realize that's what they're saying no to. You got to wake them up. Write this down. I can't lose what I don't have. People say, oh, I could never say that. That's so harsh. No, it's your job to say that. Are you a missionary? Are you in this for the money? Are you a mercenary in it for the money, or are you a missionary in it to save lives? If you're a missionary, you'll wake them up to their own insanity. So we call this the success triangle. The very top of the triangle is attitude. My attitude is, how do I feel about my world, my company, myself? My behavior is what I do. Those are the actions that I take. And my technique is how I do what I do. So let's dig in a little bit into attitude, behavior, technique. Ask yourself this question: how do you feel about your personal presence? If you're uncertain about marketing digitally, that's going to show through. How do you feel about your prospecting efforts right now? What about your pipeline? How about your performance? How about your profit potential? If you're feeling despair, it will lead to paralysis. It's the fight, flight, or freeze response that we all have to stress. It's imperative, guys and gals, that we step back and we take a good hard look at how we feel about our personal presence, prospecting, pipeline, performance, profit potential. These are vital because what I believe will control what I do. So changing your belief requires these 4 steps. You might jot this down. Step number 1, my belief will define my judgment. So let's say I believe that people won't take my call, they won't decide to buy, this is just not a good time to spend money, and it's not a good time to try to work a pipeline. All of those are legitimate beliefs. So if that's what I believe, what judgment will I make? Well, my judgment will be that, you know, I would be better served if I just help people nurture their way through the problem, put building my own business on the back burner and just wait for things to get better. What does that judgment result? What action comes as a result of that judgment? The action is I do nothing. I neglect my pipeline. I neglect sales. I'm not out there doing the behaviors necessary to get results. What results come from the actions of doing nothing? I get exactly what I do. And those results confirm my belief. So my belief gets confirmed because my results, let's work this backwards. Let's pretend I believe that now is an ideal time to define and work my pipeline, to get in front of my ideal client and to pursue relationships that could be lasting beyond this COVID-19 debacle. If my belief is now is the time, my judgment will be that I need to strike while the iron's hot. I got to take advantage of the shelter in place because right now people are, they're waiting for a distraction. I was on a conference call earlier today and with one of my Sandler peers. And he said he got a call from his client. The first thing his client said was, Dan, I don't want to hear any bad news. I hear bad news every place I go. Tell me some good news. Wow, that's some insight, isn't it? Everybody you know is inundated with bad news. What if you became the ambassador of hope that's reaching out and helping them experience some real hope? So that's my new judgment. What action will I take? Instead of the phone weighing 800 pounds, I'm going to be eager to reach out to people. And the action, what will the results will happen as a result of that action? I'm going to connect with people. Some of those connections will be positive. I may build a pipeline. I may even accidentally sell something now What does that do to my belief? It reframes my belief. Your actions determine your beliefs. So one of our rules in Sandler is to behave your way into a new attitude. 4 elements we look for here. Number 1, commitment. Commitment is the willingness to do whatever it takes to be successful. Number 2, desire. Desire is that passion, that drive. Think of it as the fuel in the fuel tank that will drive you to be successful. Outlook is the way you choose to perceive the world around you. You can have an outlook of limitation, or you can have an outlook of abundance. You pick. And listen, if you're like me, I'm hardwired for an outlook of limitations. I mean, I can take a molehill and make it into the Tetons. I am good at drama. And my brain does not serve me well when I allow my outlook to drive a negative behavior pattern. So being judicious and being on top of my outlook, vital step, which is enforced by number 4, responsibility. If it's to be, it's up to me. Your future is not in the hands of COVID-19. It's not in the hands of the government bailout. However, change your talk track, because in our government, granted, money is being dried up from an economy on hold, but $2 trillion of money is flowing into this economy. This economy is going to sustain and recover quickly as a result of that infusion of cash. If you look at 2008, the reason the bailouts didn't work in 2008 is they took way too long, and they were geared only towards big business. So, shocker here, our government actually learned from past failures, and they have, with intentionality, figured out a way to get the money in the hands of the people who will spend it, instead of just bailing out big business. Now, it doesn't mean big business won't get bailed out, but it does mean that there will be an influx of cash into the market starting tomorrow. Friday is when, and by the way, if you're a small business owner and you haven't applied for the loans that are available, it's a first come, first served basis. Reach out to my wife, joan.stevens@sandler.com. She's been working feverishly for some of her clients, and us included, to make sure we're ready to take advantage of this opportunity. You are responsible to figure out how to script the future that you want. This is a quote I want to read from Chuck Swindoll. Chuck Swindoll says, "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances. More important than failure, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It's more important than appearances, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. So right now we have a lot of choices to make. And the first choice is the choice, what attitude will you have going into this pandemic? So here's a opportunity to chat to me. How has your selling behavior changed as a result of COVID-19? How has your selling behavior changed as a result of COVID-19? How has your selling behavior changed as a result of COVID-19? Still figuring it out. That's a good one, right? I'm still trying to figure this out, right? So listen, and that's probably reflects what many of us are thinking and believing. There is no magic pill here. It's about innovating. It's about action. It's about being creative. So while you're figuring out, make sure what you measure, you'll manage. Make sure you're working your cookbook. You are being strategic and tracking what is successful. Carlos said, spending more time helping customers in need. Wow, Carla, brilliant move. If you'll give, givers receive. So make it about how are they faring in the store. Trying to Zoom meeting with customers and doing internet prospecting. Great idea. Are you doing a webinar? Right? Why not? We've got some folks from Sonitrol Pacific. You've got a treasure trove of information on how to keep your facility or home secure. What about doing a daily 5-10 minute webinar at top of the hour every day? Listen, you may have nobody show up, but if you do a Facebook Live, it's out there. If you post it to LinkedIn, it's out there. So try using Zoom. I've got a group of Sandler franchisees. We're going to be doing a daily 15-minute broadcast, and we're just going to do it top of the hour every single day, and we're going to focus on sharing good news. And we're going to make it open to everybody. We're not here to sell anything, but guess what will happen as a result of that? We will establish relationships, and we will make engagements. Justin said, more emphasis on finding any way possible that this crisis can be painted as an advantage in some way for prospects and clients, then providing them the tools they need to paint their own picture of success. Spot on, Justin. The first step there is you've got to help them believe it. Because, listen, I can tell you how to spin this, but if you don't believe it, you won't internalize it. If you don't internalize it, you won't use it. So really become an evangelist of architectural restructuring of how you think. And literally, for some of us, we have to rewire our synapse to think in a different way. In that podcast I told you earlier that I heard with Warren Buffett, we say you can't fake tonality. You could hear in his tonality, he was literally excited for the downturn. It was like Christmas. It was almost like, you know, I knew it was going to happen. We've been waiting for it. Didn't know it would be COVID-19, but thank God it's here. Time to make money. Wow. What if I had a belief like that? Use that third-party story and be an ambassador, as Justin has suggested, for your clients to help them re-script their thinking. So behavior, let's shift gears, talk a little bit about behavior. We've had to pause on things like networking, in-person calls, travel, event marketing, trade shows, lunch meetings. All that's on pause. Does that mean behaviors for prospecting pause? No, they shift. We're going to focus on video conferencing, social selling. Hey, and let me pause here. I hear in the back of my mind what I believe and what I know many people my age believe, and that is, that social selling, I don't really like that stuff. I'm not sure. Yeah, I can see the value of LinkedIn, but it really doesn't apply to me or doesn't work for me. That's the dumbest thing you could ever think or say. Social selling is here to stay. Get over your own inhibitions and figure it out. Think back to the brand new technology you got years ago when you first learned how to drive. Did you figure it out, or were you too intimidated by, and I learned on a manual transmission, were you too intimidated by the manual transmission to persevere? You figured it out. Why? Because you knew you needed to figure it out. So cold emailing and cold calling. Now is a good time to figure that out. A couple of shameless plugs. One is Prospecting the Sandler Way by John Rosso. That's a great book that gives you the scripts to cold call successfully. Another one is Social Selling by Mike Jones. Great emailing scripts and strategies for how to build a book of business using social selling. What about becoming a thought leader? Or webinars, educational forums, client relationships. How about this? One of my clients, Sarah Henry, I don't know if anybody with Gaspar's was on, but I saw on Facebook last night, they had virtual happy hour. So they had all of their people in a Zoom meeting and they were drinking wine and having fun. Wow, what if I did that? What if I hosted a social happy hour for my clients and some of their prospects? How about having a forum where you get some peers together and you talk about what are some of the strategies and tactics that they're using to grow during a down economy? What are some of the ways they're taking advantage of the downtime that they have now that they could use to build a strategic plan, figure out how they're going to take their business to the next level next quarter? How are they going to, in a down economy, there's one way you grow, and that is by taking market share from your competitors. What about doing a forum on how do I gain market share from my competitors who are asleep at the wheel? These are some of the new behaviors that you've got to innovate. How do I do it? Well, I need to start being clear on my goals. We use the acronym SMARTER, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound, enjoyable, and rewarding. Take all of your goals, and by the way, if it's not in writing, it's not a goal. It might be an intention, it might be a wish, but you got to get it in writing for it to be a goal. So make it a smarter goal by being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound, enjoyable, and rewarding. If you take it through that filter, you'll have more success in executing what you envision. A couple of Sandler rules that we have regarding behavior. Number one, you can't manage anything you can't control. I can't control if someone will take my call. I can only control if I'll make the call. I can't control if somebody will respond favorably to my 30-second commercial. I can only use my 30-second commercial. I can't control if somebody will join me on a webinar. I can only facilitate and host the webinar. Next, never manage your numbers, manage your behavior. If I'm looking exclusively at my results and my numbers, it can be depressing. But if I look at my behaviors, I might be executing to achieve results, and I may not be getting the results, but I'm going to feel great about myself because I am working towards that end goal. Another behavior that we can encourage you to focus on is we use the acronym KARE, K-A-R-E, caring for your clients. So now would be a great time to take your client list and divide them into these 4 areas. Who do I want to keep? Who do I want to attain as a new client? Who do I want to recapture as a past client? And what accounts do I want to expand? Being strategic and defining exactly who am I looking for, and then coming up with some actions under each of these headings. Now, I don't have time to go into this. I'll do a different webinar where we expand on this a little bit more, but I'll also be making these slides available. But here are some things to keep clients. If their phone rings, it's good. If yours does, it's not good. What am I saying there? I don't want them calling me. I want to be proactive calling them. Let's make sure they know you're there and you're thinking of them. Recapturing. This is about reconnecting, re-engaging. It's about offering to help first. It's about, in the context of your past, provide a lifeline for them. It's about being humble and sharing insights that you've gleaned in the marketplace. Expanding. Expanding is about sharing information, insights, and opportunities. And as you share that, the potential people that you're working with, what we call this a wallet share. What percentage of wallet share do you have of your clients? Do your clients know all that you can do for them? If they don't, that's an opportunity to expand. And then attain, seek first to help. Stop selling. Now is not the time to say, buy from me. Now is the time to give, and by giving, you will pique their curiosity. Do the behaviors, manage your cookbook, create relationships first, and make sure you manage your first impression. So chat out there to me if you would. How is your momentum? How do you feel your momentum is right now? And while you're chatting how your momentum is, I'm going to talk a little bit about technique. So technique is about how you do what you do. So let's just, the picture I have on the board shows a video chat. And the video chat, the person in the screen is at eye level, standing up, looking at the other person. The person at the table has their camera down. What do you think the viewer is seeing? They're seeing some version of this, right? They're seeing the ceiling and nose hair. Don't do it. You gotta be strategic in how you set up your camera. You gotta be strategic in how you engage other people. Make sure technique is not left to accident. It's about intentionality. I really like this next slide. I think you could get some mileage out of this in helping you to help other people through this COVID-19. Now, to do this, you're going to have a heart of compassion, and you're going to have to want to coach, consult, nurture, and develop people. There's 5 stages in change: shock, denial, resistance, exploration, and commitment. Right now, you are at some level in each of these. Some of us are still in shock. We can't believe it's happening. That shock leads to denial. This will never impact me. Resistance, I mean, you see various states that haven't even taken action to be proactive yet. They're in denial and resistance, but the day's going to come when they realize, you know, maybe we should take action. I'm broadcasting from my garage, right? We're sheltering in place. Here's, this is my new office. That's our RV. That's where I go to conduct business. Why? Irene, my mother-in-law, lives with us, and we're taking very serious protecting her health. And so we're beyond shock, denial, resistance, exploration. we're at commitment. We're committed to growing through the opportunity that COVID-19 provides. We will grow emotionally, we will grow mentally, we will grow spiritually. Will bad things happen? No doubt. None of us are going to be unimpacted by this. But help others reach commitment stage. Ask them, where do they think they are in really coping with the changes that are being faced? We are all stretching out of our comfort zones, and people aren't going to change overnight. Change takes time. It takes time to adjust. So I've got to modify my connect questions. Justin had a great one earlier on in reframing. How do I share what I'm thinking so that you hear it from a different perspective? So think about it in terms of 4 areas. What are my new talk tracks regarding my industry? So to know that, I need to know what's going on in my industry. Hey, the reason for my call is in our industry, we have found 3 things happening that are really going to be game changers coming out of this recession. Are you curious? Would you like to hear about it? Talk track. Marketplace, same drill. Company, what's your talk track about your company? And ultimately, the most impactful is the buyer. If I really want to modify my connection questions to be impactful, I need to script them towards the buyer's perspective. In Sandler, we call that using your 30-second commercial. So in your 30-second commercial, bear in mind that people buy for one of 4 reasons, often a blending of all 4. Pain in the present, pain in the future, gain in the present, and gain in the future. Those are the emotions that drive people to buy. If you happen to sell anything related to medical supplies required by the COVID-19 virus, you are busier than you ever thought you could be, and you don't know how to stay ahead of it. Fair? You are struggling with pain in the present. How do I keep up with the orders I have? If you're not in that industry or a related growth industry, you're going to have to figure out what emotions currently exist in all 4 of these areas and script your 30-second commercial to capture each of these emotions. Don't just focus on pain in the present or fear. Don't just focus on gain or in the present or gain in the future. Wrap into your 30-second commercial, which, by the way, is a third-party story, and make that story applicable to all of the buyer's buying emotions. What about your upfront contract? Are you being diligent in using an upfront contract? Is your upfront contract a monologue or a dialogue? Are you getting mutual agreement? Are you being the intentional leader? To have great technique in managing people, we want you to establish equal business stature. Equal business stature happens when you have a good upfront contract. So when do I use it? Well, I use it on every single phone call, every email and calendar advice, at the beginning of every meeting, at the end of every meeting, at the end of every virtual meeting, and when I close the sale, upfront contract for what happens next, creating the timeline and passing the baton. Being clear on the technique of your upfront contract. Right now, upfront contract gives you the ability to be an intentional leader and commandeer the respect of the people who you are leading. Listen, think of it this way. People don't know how to buy from you. The upfront contract equips them to know what to do. And then post-sell. The last technique I want to talk about is post-sell. At the end of every meeting, make sure you're post-selling for establishing a referral relationship. Make sure you are preventing the loss of sale from backouts. Make sure you are establishing the upfront contract for what's going to happen next. Don't leave any meeting without asking the question, so what happens next? Now, here's a mistake that I have made in the past. You may make as well when it comes to post-sell. If I make it a monologue, I check the box. Okay, I talked about referrals, talked about buyer's remorse, talked about upfront contract, but did they hear it? I don't know. How will I know if they hear it? I got to ask them. So part of the post-sell is to say, so play back from your perspective what we agreed will happen next, just so I know we're on the same page. It's a firm parent injunction that drives them to play back to you what they've heard. It positions you as a leader, and it eliminates this cancer we call mutual mystification. Okay, it looks like we're out of time. What are some of the sales skills that are more important today? Chat to me. What are some of the sales skills that are more important today? And by the way, folks, don't wait to take action. The key to a strong recession business strategy is to monitor the economic climate and pivot at just the right time without losing momentum. So how can we help? I'd like to throw out an invitation for any one of you. I'd be happy to meet with you and your sales team. If you need somebody to come in as a guest speaker in a Zoom meeting and help you figure out your strategy, invite me in. If you'd like somebody to bounce some ideas off of, something here today has piqued your curiosity, give us a call, 208-429-9275. There's no cost here. Givers give. We want to be part of your success in the future. We know we can achieve that by being available. We don't want to impose ourselves on you, but we want to make ourselves available for you. So please take time to reach out to us. I really appreciate all of you being here today. We're in this together. Our team at Sandler is here to help. Joan, Jason, myself, we're all available. Give us a call, 208-429-9275. That's 208-429-9275. Thank you all for being here. We will create a video of this. We'll post it. We'll send it out. If anybody you know should have been here or you think would have gained some value from it, please share it with them. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for participating in the chats. Have a great rest of the week. If you measure it, you'll manage it.